Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, Common Magician, and I've been off for a little bit. I've been doing some housework while I'm on summer vacation here, and notice it's a little darker in here. I've been kind of renovating, repainting the space down here. It's a lot darker. There's actually, the room we're in is kind of a multi-purpose sort of den area. There's a room back behind me, which is the projection theater. I actually have a projection home theater down in this space, and it's kind of out of sight back there. And then there's a sort of a play area. Every now and then you see toys pop up, kids' toys, and then kind of a craft area over here and a game area back here. So, and then a workroom over there. So I've been trying to get all of this more unified, and I've been painting and darkening it up, particularly for the projection theater, so that whenever we're showing movies, it's really dark and you just see the screen very well. So it's a lot darker in here, and still work in progress, but trying to get it done. I decided to make a movie here, a quick video for you on something I've never talked about on the channel. The double lift. The double lift. It's like one of the most popular moves in card magic. It's been made popular probably over the last 20 years. It's become really overly used, I think, in a lot of ways. I haven't talked about the double lift because I just don't use them. I don't do double lifts for much. And from looking at this channel over the years, I don't do magic that really depends a lot on them. I do them occasionally, but not very often. And there's really only a couple of kinds of double lifts that I do. This is truly going to be a common magician tutorial. I'm not going to teach you fancy schmancy ways to improve your double lift, to do the latest, greatest, best one. I'll offer a little bit of personal criticism on it, and a few insights, and I'll show you what I use. And I'll provide, as I usually do, some apologetics for why these are okay. So first of all, let's get out of the way that people are very argumentative about this. Okay, magicians can really fight and argue about what a double lift should and shouldn't be, what it should look like, what it shouldn't look like, the rationale why it should look that way, why it shouldn't, and so on. We'll dabble in a little bit of that here, but I just want to say I don't think it really matters how you turn the card over. I would say I tend to gravitate more towards it ought to look like the normal act. If I was going to turn a card over to look at the other side, it would be in the context of a game. And I would either do a turnover like that and deal it down, or I would turn it over like that, right? The stud deal. I would push off a card, I would take it, I would turn it over, or I would turn it over like that. Now, if I was doing it on the top of the deck, it would really be one of those moves just on the top, right? So it'd be a stud deal turned over, or it'd be, this variation. So really, you're just looking at the motion of dealing and then doing it back onto the deck rather than down onto the table. I think if you really want to be a purist about it and you want to say, well, it ought to look natural, I think you really have to determine that it should look like that, because the natural motion of turning a card over is in this context. These are really the only natural ways to turn over a card. And it could be done on the table and just move to the top of the deck, right? You're just moving that same motion up here. That being said, I never do it like that because, and the reasons are obvious, is that turning a card over 2 for 1, 2 as 1, double turnover, would be difficult to do in this way because of the maintenance of the two cards squared up as one. So I don't do that, right? Now, a secondary way to look at this would be to be the book sort of effect, right? That is the opening of a book. You have a card is pushed off and then turned over like a book, right? This would be probably a more secondary sort of natural motion. I don't think this is terribly natural because it's not how you turn cards over in a real context. Again, this is how you turn cards over in a real context. You deal it off, you turn it over. You deal it off, you turn it over. Either bottom out or top down, one or the other, okay? But I think a secondarily more natural way could arguably be to do the book sort of motion. So you push off and then you turn it over in this manner, okay? Keeping that in mind, I think that is really what you're shooting for. You're shooting for something that's going to resemble something like that. Do you have to do that? No. Some of them that I do don't resemble that at all, and I don't think you have to lock yourself into that. But if you're going to make the argument about making it look natural, I think you're only consistent in that claim if you're looking at the truly natural ways to turn over a card. And it's going to be kind of one of those three, right? Anything other than that, I don't think you can say looks natural, right, in the purest sense. Can it look natural as in it looks smooth, right? Can it look natural as in it doesn't look forced or contrived? Yes, I think that is kind of another tier. So let's kind of pull ourselves off the purist rung, which most people who claim to be purists are not consistent. That's my first criticism, right? And let's go kind of the second tier. Let's say that we can really do anything as long as it looks smoothly executed, and not forced, not contrived in any way. Okay, so what are the options? There is the push-off, right? Or there is the separation sort of lift. You can push off the card to separate it, or you can lift it directly off in some manner, right? You can take it off the deck by lifting it straight up. So those are your two options. You can push it off or you can lift it off. The more natural of those two, I think, is the push off, because it is more like dealing. Again, to be a purist. Do you have to do that? No. But again, going back to that, if you're going to be that purist and be consistent, I think the push off is the more natural looking option. Okay. So I do a push-off. Without a get ready. We'll talk about the get ready in a moment, right? And my push-off looks kind of like that. So I push off and then I pick up. And it really is, it's not much of a push-off, right? It does look like I'm dealing over, I guess, because I push with the thumb. But it's a very small push that just allows me to get control over two cards. I'll talk about that. There's no get ready involved in it. It's very simple, and it can be done pretty close range, right? Get ready. The get ready is a big deal for some people. I've heard magicians say, don't, for the love of all things, stop doing that. Stop doing this. Stop pushing off two and then squaring back and getting a pinky break. Stop doing that. Don't do that. I don't know. My reply to that is buzz off, right? That's not, I don't think there's any reason to not do that. I think that if you're going to be doing that kind of a preparation, a get ready, it does require misdirection, That's all. I mean, and we deal in misdirection all the time. That's not hard to do. It's not hard to get misdirection. I'll talk about possibilities here in a moment, but I think if you're going to be pushing off to get a get ready to get a break underneath two in that manner, you cannot do it at the moment that you go do your double lift. Okay. If it's caught on video, so what? I mean, you know how I feel about video, being the common magician. I'm more interested in performing for people, you know, in intimate settings, one-on-one. I don't care if what I do can get caught on video and can be analyzed. I just don't care. I don't operate under those rules. But again, I say, so what? If you're in a real environment and someone's shooting it on video, I think a lot of stuff can be missed just with the simple misdirection of interaction. Okay. What's one way to get ready without having to push off in the moment and pull back? Well, one option for get ready, finally getting into instruction here, 11 minutes into this video. One way is to just keep kind of a sloppy stack. If you always keep somewhat of a spread, right? If you know you're going to be doing the lift, then way ahead, keep your spread. Long before you have to do your get ready, just keep it open. I've got cards spread out in front, so whenever I go to square, it's a natural thing. I can literally keep it spread out there, right, way ahead of time, and then come back and square as I grab the card. So in that sense, the get ready can happen right in the moment because I've set a precedent of I don't want to say sloppiness, but just free handling. If I'm just very free with the spread on the top, there really is no get ready. It just there's no moment where you get ready. You square up and then you grab two and turn them over. Okay, so that's one. Another option is using the oops principle I talked about recently, right? The oops, I forgot something, as a means to excuse emotion, excuse an action, or excuse resetting something. The first place I came upon this principle of misdirection was with this absurdly ridiculous trick where I'm going to rub the coin into my elbow, right? Oh, excuse me, right? And then I rub the coin into my elbow and it's gone. And that's the oops principle. I do this and I mistakenly drop it so that I can pick it up to do the false transfer to do the trick. So if you create a moment where you have that kind of a misdirect where you can reset, that's a great way to get a break. I don't think this cough is ever going to go away. That's a great way to get that break. Okay. So the way it can look is like this. You kind of have to have a premise for doing this, a pretext, right? For oopsing, for resetting. But you can spread off two cards, take the one, and hold it out and say, can you please put out your hand? And then bring the card back, and you've already gotten your break under the next card right here. Set it on top and square and say, like this, right? Then you can reach back and you can pick up at your break, turn over, and then place, sorry, you wouldn't do that. You would show the card, got ahead of myself. You would show the card, and then you would turn it back over. They have their hand out, and then you can set the single rather in their hand. So the oops principle can operate in that way, right? Where I push off whenever when I take one card off back here, I can push off another card, grab my break, excuse me, as I gesture and say, please put out your hand like this, and I've squared it, and then I can reach back, turn it over, show it, and turn it over, and then set it. So if you have a pretext for catching the break, that's a great way to do it. So those are get readies, right? One, if you want to do a get ready, be sloppy, so that you can just always have your get ready, right? If you're always pushed out, you're going to be doing a double lift. You're not going to do it just spur the moment. You know where your effect is going and the things you have to do to get there. So just be open with it anyway so that you can get that. So you get it way ahead, right? And then as you come back, you can close up and then you're ready to grab 2 as 1. Or 2, get your get ready in a reset moment, right? Can you please put your hand out like this? Okay, and we're going to put the card, your card, 2 of diamonds. We're going to put this in your hand. And it's fairly clean, right? You turn it over and immediately you take that card and place it in your hand. So if you have that kind of premise in the trick, you can get ready in that way. Now, the lift itself and the turnover, let's say once you have your get ready, the lift and the turnover can be, I do one of 2 things. One is what I just showed, where I reach in the back and I reach underneath and I pick it up and I turn it over. This is incredibly unnatural. But it doesn't matter, right? If it looks smooth, I think it's okay. But it's really not natural to pick up a card off the top in this way. You never do that. You just don't. It's not what you do. How did you get that space, right, is the question. It doesn't look clean. I guess if you really wanted to be a purist, it might be better to reach back and try to at least fake the idea of picking up, the edge of it and then grabbing it, rather than just reaching in underneath and picking it up. To each their own. I just reach in and turn it over, and then in the action of squaring, I get ready again and then do it. It's a pretty classic handling. Here's the one though I really want to touch on. Some people out there are very concerned about turning over by holding end for end, right? That kind of a thing. There are some people that say that's incredibly amateurish and you should never do that. There's a lot of professionals that do this, a lot. And I like to do this. I very much prefer to do this because I have absolute control. I ain't going to mess it up. I'm not going to make a mistake. I have complete control over it. I don't have to worry about grabbing get readies after I've turned it over and squaring and all that kind of thing. But I do like to do it this way. I prefer to reach down, slide my fingers up to the thumb side, and then kick out the bottom with my finger. My ring finger, I guess, is what it is. So I kick out and then I set it down. I prefer to do that. So I actually show the face, slide my hand over, pick it up, kick it out with my finger and set it down. And this can look very, very natural in the sense that it is smooth. Not natural in the sense that it is a natural flow, what someone would naturally do, but natural in the sense that it looks like, it looks like it's very free. Looks like I'm handling one card. It looks like I'm not worried about it, right? So I very much like to do that. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? If you're on the fence out there and you've been told that there's something wrong with doing double lifts, double turnovers that way, just shut that out of your head. There's nothing wrong with doing that. That is a perfectly professional caliber way of doing it. If you can do it smoothly and it gives you the confidence that you have control and you can perform better, then why not? Why not do that way, right? There's really no reason not to do it. It looks fine. It looks fine. Okay. Now coming up to the last part of this, which is turning over. So we talked about the book turnover, right? Reach under, just slide back and just turn it over like a book. Re-square, turn it over like a book. So I do that a lot. Turn over from the ends. Okay. And the last one, the push off without a get ready. This comes from a real gem of a double turnover that gets a lot of flack. I don't know where it originates from. I think I saw it originally years and years and years ago on like one of those illusionist, card magic basics kind of videos. But it's this one, right? I don't know who originated that. I know David Blaine did this back in the day on his street magic video, the first one, right? A lot of people really hate this because it looks, they say no one does that, right? It looks completely unnatural to do that. I want to push back a little bit on that. I don't do this one. I've done it, but I don't do it anymore. I do a different one. I want to push back on this a little bit because I want to repeat what I said at the very beginning. Turning over card naturally would be done in the context of playing a game, and that would be to deal, right? This sort of stud deal kind of thing, okay? And if you really think about it, this is not far off. It's not far off from that. This really is more purist than people give it credit, right? Credit for it. I think the weird part of it is this. It's these responsibilities. It is the responsibility of the left hand, if you're right-handed, in accepting the double and squaring it and showing that the presentation in this way seems unnatural and bizarre. But the actual turnover itself, the push off and the grip, which what you're doing here is you're just reaching out and grabbing two corners. So you see there's two corners there, 2 or 3 corners. I reach out and I visually see it, and I can take my middle finger and I grab it and I square back against the corner of my palm, the corner against my palm, and then I pull it back and I can rotate it out. So I'm getting control here, squaring and against my palm. But really, if you examine what it is, it looks a lot like this. It looks like a fairly natural turnover, right? The issue is with this. It's with this business out here. It's with the squaring. I think this is really what people don't like. It's that. So my feeling on that is, don't do that, right? You could do this, turn it over, and just set it right back on top and square it. And it really is fairly purist. It looks a lot like that. I'm still using all the same control, right? I put it in and I square it. That I do doing it the original way against the corner of my palm here. I'm just choosing to square it immediately rather than present it in such a weird way. Anyway, that's that. That's not what I do. Here's what I do. I've modified this a little bit. My no get ready push off. I do the same thing. I push off so I can see 2 corners, right? 2 or 3 come out. But rather than reach out with my middle finger, I reach out with my first finger. And I square back, and then I place my fingers, my middle finger, ring finger, underneath. Because now it's pushed off, right? Squared up and pushed off like I'm dealing. And then I can reach underneath, and then I proceed with the book turnover. So there's no get ready. Right? I can push off. I see 2 corners. I reach out with my index finger, my first finger. I square back. I reach underneath with my other fingers, my middle finger, ring finger. And I have square here from my finger to my palm. Other fingers underneath. And then I can do the book turnover very freely. So no get ready. That's probably my favorite, more purist looking double turnover. And it's not very difficult, right? If you necktie a little bit, you can be fairly open. Like right now, this is what you see, but this is what I see. Look at how much real estate I've got to grab onto. I don't have to have like the tiniest little brief, right? I can just necktie this out and get my control and turn it over, right? There's the one. That's the one version. And then this is the book, right? So those are the options. No get ready, just just push off a spread, visually reach out and grab 2. And that's it. The nice thing about this is you could do a triple because you can see it visually, right? If you reach out and you can see 3 because you're doing a pretty open spread. Probably want to do more of a necktie because when you do the spread like this, you can see the indices pop out, right? So if you're going to do this, particularly from the face up, you probably want to necktie it quite a bit so that you can get your square, right, for the turnover. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the double lift. Really, this is if I'm really performing, that's probably the one I'm going to do because I have a lot of control. If I'm going to get weird about video recording something for YouTube, I'm probably going to try to go more with something that looks like that. Just because it's just a little bit... I won't catch as much flack for it from you people, right, out there, by doing something that looks just a little bit more magician-y, right? But anyway, those are my thoughts on the double lift, double turnover. I think you really just should do the thing that gives you the most security. And if that means grabbing it end for end, you go right ahead and do that. In fact, I would say don't do that until you get a better one. I would say work on that one. Make that one look really smooth. Try to do that one until it feels really good, looks really smooth, very secure. You could do it in your sleep. Do that. End for end, full control turnover. Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of professionals that do that, and I think they do it for a reason, particularly on television. When you're on television, things have to work. You cannot make mistakes, particularly if it's live. So these talent kind of shows, right, where you see card magicians do sleights, you often will see them resort to shorts, gaffes, things that are going to give them surefire, end for end double turnovers, double lift turnovers, things like that. Those kinds of controls that are surefire, that they're going to get it right then because the heat's on in the biggest way. So, if that's the way you're going to be in those moments, why not just feel that way all the time and just have a lot of control and make fewer mistakes? So anyway, those are my thoughts on the double lift. Some people probably take big issue with it. Again, I don't do a lot of them. I don't have a lot of need for them. I find a lot of ways to get around having to do it. But if I do need to do one, those few ideas, that's what I gravitate towards. So, put your hand out like this, right? Got your card, the 9 of clubs, and just like that, right? So you have these reasons to interact so that this is not important. This is getting this right is important for them. That kind of stuff, just be ahead, be ahead. Don't jazz with this stuff. If you're going to be using these kinds of sleights, don't try to do them right then. Be way ahead and have yourself ready to go. So anyway, double lift, double turnover, probably the only time I'll ever talk about it. So good luck with that. Happy magicking.